On today's episode of Locked On Suns, coming off of the most disappointing loss of the Suns season, it's clear now more than it has ever been that the Phoenix Suns simply need more from Devin Booker. How do they get it? Let's go.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are back. This is Locked On Phoenix Suns. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Brendon Kleen, a credentialed media member covering the Suns for the past 7 seasons, a writer at Suns.com, and the host of the Just Basketball Show wherever you get your podcast. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen Tuesday morning. We are free and available everywhere you get your podcasts, including YouTube, so just hit that follow or subscribe button wherever you're finding us. Get a new episode in your feed every single Monday through Friday. Become an everydayer, an everyday listener. And that is what we have for you. That opportunity is right there for you, considering there is a new episode every day. And if you do, I will promise you, you will stay locked on to the Phoenix Suns all season long, really from now through August. The NBA news, the Suns news does not slow down. Today's episode brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs, which helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right. That was an ugly one on Sunday. Huh? 140-129. They won the fourth quarter, which is actually kind of crazy. I recommend go watch the recap show we did Sunday afternoon. Brandon, Dwayne, and I. Check that show out. Because that was a good reaction, I thought. Emotionally, X's and O's wise, everything else. But this one is going to be forward-looking. If you did not believe it already, I feel like a clunker like that in game number 68 should show you that the Suns, their opportunity to be looked at as the class of the league is just about expired. And honestly, if their schedule wasn't so hard the rest of the way, they would have no chance to prove it anymore. But I actually feel like the fact that their schedule is somewhat difficult gives them a little bit of an opportunity. Because if they string together some wins over the last few weeks with the just complete murderer's row of teams that they have to face, then I could see us all changing our tune a bit. But that's not going to happen unless Devin Booker steps up. That's not going to happen unless it comes from the one guy who has been steady and consistent across this chaotic organization as it has completely changed around him over the past 4 years, 4 years. And that's Devin Booker. I have 3 areas where they need more from Book, and I will get to all of them as we go. But the first one is not really a basketball thing. It's not some pick and roll look or aspect of his shot diet or defensive matchup or anything like that. It's just about intensity. It's just about intensity. And I mean, it's 70 games into year number 3, year number 4 of the Suns championship window. Okay? I have not made a show like this or made an argument like this since the day after Game 7 against Dallas. But I bring that game up to say that I don't think any of us should feel the same energy from this team that we did in that Game 7 against Dallas, and we do feel it. And it is literally impossible, unless you want to make a compelling case for James Jones, and maybe there's some credence to the lead executive and the types of players he targets or the culture that he creates behind the scenes. I would hear you out. But this is the NBA. The players determine what happens, and the best players, more than anyone, determine what happens. And Devin Booker is the only player left to have been through all of these different slogs that we have watched this team go through, whether it is the Dallas series, whether it is the following season when, well, he was hurt, which is another story, which we will get to, and then Game 6 against Denver. Early this season, late November, early December, when we were all talking about, is this thing working? Should a coach be fired? Whatever else. Or to right now, where since the All-Star break, I believe the Suns are 6-6. JJ Redick had it today that the Suns are 7-7 in the last 14 games that the Big Three have played together. So if you break it down that way, it is even kind of worse. They're 6-7 after that Bucks game since the break. And again, 7-7 in the last 14 that the Big Three have played. So even that silver lining of, well, when they all play, they're good, is going away. I think I speak for all of us when I say that we would feel better if they went down with a fight. Everybody would. A third-party, completely uninvolved fan who likes the Hawks or something would respect the Suns more if they went down fighting, but they have not done that for the past 2 years. And it does not feel like we are at a point in the season where that seems to be on the table either. And to watch it happen in such a familiar way with bad body language, inconsistent effort, just a general haplessness, I have to pin that on the one constant across all of that. I don't know if that's fair. You cannot make one human being responsible for the actions of other human beings, but that is what comes with being the best player on the team. It just is. To have a team, an organization, a salary cap built around you being the best, that means you set the tone, whether it's fair or not fair. You're better than everybody on the team, relatively speaking. And within the Big Three, you're the guy that has the ball in his hands, if you're Devin Booker. And so Book is the guy that I look at when they have performances like they did Sunday in Milwaukee. It just can't go down that way. Poor shot selection. I tweeted a clip of 2.5 minutes to go in the third quarter. The Suns are in the middle of the only push they made all game long. Dame hits a bucket to go up 10. Book calls for a screen, gets a switch on Portis, and takes literally a foot on the line, pull up 2 with 14 seconds left on the shot clock. Not long after, the Suns would cut the lead a bit from there and then watch as Milwaukee went on a 9-0 run to extend it back out of reach and basically put the game away. That is the moment of the game that I selected on the recap show. That's just it is a perfect encapsulation of the mentality that I think this team just lacks to, in the middle of a run when things are going your way, to take a bad shot like that and then have the mental lapse right after to foul an opposing team repeatedly and allow them to get 6 points at the free throw line in the bonus to end the quarter with a flurry that eliminates all the work you just put in to make that run. Not to mention poor effort going through screens on defense, lack of communication and understanding on the defensive end of the coverage that they were trying to do, overall lack of force, which this team has to have in order to compete on defense because they are undersized, they are limited athletically compared to the best teams in the league. These are all issues that are unavoidable. These are all issues we knew going into the season were going to plague the team, and to overcome them was going to take determination, being very deliberate about what you were doing, and playing hard as hell. And to be 70 games in and have that not happening, that has to fall on somebody. I think it's not just one person, but if it's going to flip, I have to think it flips because Book wills it into existence. We've seen this guy in the playoffs last year not only put the team on his back with shot making and passing and everything else, but set the tone from top to bottom in a do-or-die type of situation on the road in Denver, at home against Denver down 2-0, whatever you want to point to. You know, down against the Clippers, 0-1. Set the tone with his intensity and his effort and his energy. We've seen him do it. It's now or never. Let's get a little more specific. What does that actually look like on offense and defense? We'll get into it coming up next. First, today's show brought to you by Stitch Fix. With Stitch Fix, you get a stylist who understands your style, size, and budget. They do all the shopping for you, and it's the easiest way to update your wardrobe this season. Easily upgrade your wardrobe this year with a professional stylist that helps you find new on-trend favorites that work for you. Just give your stylist your size, style, and budget preferences, order boxes when you want and how you want, and all of that with no subscription required. They send 5 just-for-you pieces plus outfit recommendations and styling advice. You keep what works and send back the rest. Your stylist always sends just right pieces and the fit is on point. It's like they have style ESP. They might not know you, but they get you. Stitch Fix makes it all so easy. If you like to shop and save time and effort while doing so, Stitch Fix is the place to go. You get outfits that make you look and feel good, and if you don't love something, you just send it back. Shipping, returns, and exchanges are always free. So, style that makes you feel as good as you look. Get started today at stitchfix.com/lockedon. That's stitchfix.com/lockedon. stitchfix.com/lockedon. Let's keep it rolling. So, went on a little bit of a rant there. Not like me to be calling anybody out or getting on my high horse, but I hope what I said was fair, and I'm going to back it up with a little bit more concrete, which is my more comfortable zone, right? You know me if you're an everyday listener here, if you're an everydayer, that I tend to be a little more analytical, and I tend to be a little bit more fact-based rather than emotion and opinion-based, but we're at that point, guys. You hear me maybe March, April, May, every season. If you've been around long enough, this is what happens. I have a breaking point too. But we're not there yet. Game 69 is coming up. Home, back-to-back, against 2 beatable teams. The Sixers without Embiid and the Atlanta Hawks without Trae Young. Starting with those 2 games, here's what I think Book can do. Here's what they need from him, is a better way to put it, rather than me pretending like I'm a basketball savant and know everything. Here's what from watching this team, watching how Book has played in the past, let's start with offense. A few things. The shot selection is in his hands. As the guy with the ball the most, the shot selection is in his hands. Okay? And so when I zoom out and I look at rim frequency, the Suns are 25th. 3-point frequency, the Suns are 22nd. On the whole this season, the only improvements that they have made from their frustrating shot diet in previous seasons is getting to the free throw line more, which has not even been there recently, but on the whole of the season it has, and making more of the hundreds of mid-range shots they take every week. So they're better at what they used to do, and they've added the free throw aspect. That is a big part of why they continue to put themselves in a hole. We've been saying it for 4 years. It's still true. The Bucks are a team that can beat you that way. I get people were a little bothered by the fact that the Suns were trying to kind of turn it into, well, without Giannis, they take more threes and guys feel comfortable and need to step up, and they did it. Yeah, it doesn't sound great maybe if you cut it a certain way to say, they're more scary without their best player. I get it. Feels like an excuse, but I'll tell you what makes it more true than ever is when you, as the team facing that type of Milwaukee squad with that personnel and that confidence, is to take 8 fewer threes than them and make life harder on yourself in that way. And so rather than just trying to pile in middies, Book can be the catalyst. We know when he's determined, the end of the 64-win season, the playoffs last year, we've seen it. When he wants to get downhill, get to the line more, get layups and dunks, he can do that. And that really brings us to the next thing because they're connected. Pace. The pace is in Booker's hands. Okay? We all felt like getting rid of Chris Paul for this team was going to be a big boon for one thing in particular about how they were going to play on offense, and it was that they had an opportunity to finally play faster. They have not done that. And there's probably a lot of reasons for it, and they're not all Booker's fault. But again, as the guy with the ball in his hands the most, it can be his opportunity to fix it. The Suns are middle of the pack in terms of offensive seconds per shot. So how much time are they killing on the shot clock each time down? They're in the middle. They're right around teams like Boston and Chicago. There's no rhyme or reason per se to the teams that play the fastest are always the best, right? Indiana leads the league in pace, no surprise. Washington is second. That's a mediocre team and a bad team. You have the Thunder, good team. The Kings, mediocre team. The Raptors, the Spurs, bad teams. Okay. Playing fast doesn't equal winning. But for this team, with the lack of a true point guard who is necessarily going to orchestrate and execute to perfection in the half court, playing fast is a cheat code. At the same time, for Booker in particular, playing fast is his best way of using the whole court, of scoring at all 3 levels. He has an eye for it, he has attention to it, and he has the skill set to play in space like that, beat the defense down the court, and get those cherry-picked offensive opportunities at a really high level. We saw him do it all playoffs last year. It really helps. And it would also help the other guys on this team. It would help the Suns control tempo and just feel that sense of ownership over these games in a way that they just, a lot of the time, do not. It feels like they are just reacting all the time. And dictating pace is a big way to regain control of this stuff. The last thing is, okay, so shot selection, pace. The last part, and I think both of those things to me would go a long way. You're probably thinking, well, crunch time, fourth quarter. To me, if the shot selection's better, the pace is better, that fixes a lot of the offensive problems in the fourth quarter in and of itself. Another thing that has crept up and become a problem in fourth quarters lately, but really is on Booker, period, regardless of what portion of the game it happens, is putting Kevin Durant in position to succeed. Think back to last postseason. We were all very frustrated watching the idea of Durant being a decoy at times, the idea that for quarters at a time, Durant's main shot opportunities would be corner threes, right? We all just were kind of wondering what was going on there. Let me say this. at least it felt like there was a plan. And a lot of the time this season, outside of dump it to KD and cross your fingers, it has not exactly felt like there has been a plan. And so I don't feel like there is a full answer, because I have advocated for spontaneous basketball. I think that's the best way for this team to play. But spontaneous is a lot different than random, right? I've called it purposeful randomness, right? You need to know what you're trying to attack. You need to know what's working and what's not. You need to know how everybody's vibing out there. A lot of the teams that have tried to play random basketball on offense, Memphis has talked about this, Boston has talked about this, they're pretty egalitarian, right? And the problems crop up when that pattern is disrupted. And Book disrupts it too often. He just does. He slows things down. He runs a lot of 0 and 1 pass possessions. And that is when Durant gets out of these opportunities. He gets out of sorts. He is not impacting the game. He's cold. The Suns are only going to be at their best if all three of the big three are in rhythm, being put into position to succeed. And the way the roster is built right now, the way this team is designed to play, yes, some of those opportunities are just going to come from cooking your man in isolation. Post-ups, ISOs, transition, basic pick and roll. Book, Beal, and Durant can all do that on their own. But to make this thing better than the sum of its parts, it is going to take deliberate, purposefully random playmaking. And Book is the guy that's going to do that. We know it. We know what the best assist numbers on this team have come from. We know what the best moments of this team have come from, and they are still, when in those moments, when a good possession just needs to be manufactured, Book is the guy who can break his opponent down, who can make the most high-level passes on this team, who combines that with footwork and quickness. It has to be him. It also has to be him to take on more of a defensive workload, and we'll talk about that coming up next. First, today's show brought to you by LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role, and that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools that you need to help find those professionals for your team, the right ones, faster and for free. LinkedIn Jobs isn't just another job board. It has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, including yours truly. I found my job through Indeed. I was able to look at the qualifications, look at the benefits, frankly, and know that it was something I wanted to do. I applied. I popped up on the interface for the managers at the company I wanted to work for. They were able to check my qualifications. My profile was updated and spruced up. We messaged each other. We got on an interview. I followed up after the fact with them because I knew who the right people were to be talking to. I knew the right things to say because I knew what the position entailed. And all of it was courtesy of LinkedIn with an interface and a set of descriptions and slots for managers and salaries and all those types of things that are prompted for you on the dashboard. It all worked perfectly. I got the job. It has been great, life-changing, everything I could have asked for, all thanks to LinkedIn. They know small businesses are wearing a lot of hats. They want to find ways to make it easier, and they have. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. So post your job for free. Become one of them at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Devin Booker also needs to do more on the defensive end. The Suns need Devin Booker to do more on the defensive end. I keep doing it as a call out. I really don't mean that. I'm doing it from the team standpoint. And I'm doing it grading Book on a curve of what we know he's capable of. And once again, I have to look no further than multiple high-profile moments, right? There is a reason that it is such a bummer to see this odd season from Book. There is a reason that he is held to such a high standard. There's a reason that Suns fans are still split and often make the argument that the best player on the team is not the guy that's about to be 8th in NBA history in scoring and is a lock to be in the Hall of Fame in Kevin Durant. Book has proven that much. And so I'm hardly even asking him to do more than he ever has. I'm asking him to play to the level that we know he's capable of, and that includes on the defensive end. Talked about this a little bit on the recap show with Brandon on Sunday afternoon after that Bucks game. Been calling for it for a while, frankly. I get that people have an issue when I push back on Grayson Allen as a defender. It's not even really calling that dude out. It is just to say that we never really thought he would be the starter on this team, and for good reason. He is not an ideal point of attack defender. We saw it against Steph Curry. We have seen it against numerous opponents, Luka Doncic, all season long. He is undersized to be guarding players like that a lot of the time. He is not quite the change of direction, laterally explosive defender to navigate screens, and not the absolute strongest guy. I thought he played well against Jamal Murray, who's a little bit of a different player, right? Not quite as quick, a little more angular, a little more physical, so Grayson can keep up. Dame is not that guy. Luka's too big. Steph is too energetic, let's say. Book is not necessarily going to stop those guys either, but we have seen him reach a higher peak as a defender than Grayson Allen or Bradley Beal or anybody outside of Josh Okogie on this roster ever have. And so, in order for this defense to stabilize, I think Royce starting and just giving more size overall would go a long way, but you still need 48 minutes of point of attack defense. Maybe Grayson can be part of that answer. Okogie certainly will be. Maybe even Royce O'Neal can be, depending on the matchup. We know the Suns switch a lot. So this is not an end-all, be-all for the offense, but for the defense. But too many times this season we have seen opposing players break down this team defensively and create absolute havoc because once that initial penetration happens, the Suns are not big or athletic enough to really rotate at a high level and fly around and force turnovers and recover and reset as a defense. They don't have an elite rim protector to clean that stuff up and be that back line. The way that they are built requires defense against the ball. Sometimes that's in switches and you don't always get to control who's guarding the ball at that point, but at the very least having more stability at the point of attack in a more regular offensive environment, typical pick and roll, typical dribble handoff, whatever it is, transition, just drives to the basket. They need more, and Book can give it to them. Ask Russell Westbrook. Ask even Murray in a few possessions. Ask Chris Middleton in the finals. We know what Book can do. I'll close by saying this. None of this is a surprise, and that's why I feel comfortable saying it. This was the set of the set of qualities we knew Book would have to bring to the table this season no matter what. I openly asked in the preseason, has this team been built to ask too much of him? And I think you could make the same case for Durant, although I just think Durant has kind of checked the boxes a little more. So that's why I'm not doing a show saying they need more from KD. They're kind of getting about as much as you could ask for from KD, in my opinion. They need more from Book. We knew he would have to engineer this offense and orchestrate this offense a handful of times per game when they really need a good possession. We knew that he would often have to be defending the other team's best guy. We knew that with Chris Paul gone and his oversight and leadership, even with Monty gone and a little more of a hands-off coach like Vogel, with players who were kind of the spirit of the team, like Bridges, or even like a campaign, to be honest with you, that Book would need to replace a lot of what those guys were doing. And this is all things we were talking about September, October. So I don't think it's unreasonable to ask for it now. When the season is on the brink, it is becoming very clear this team is not an upper echelon title contender, and you need to save the season. You need to avoid the play-in. Because look, you know what's kind of breathing down the Suns' neck right now? A play-in game against Luka Doncic. If that doesn't give you a nightmare, I don't know what else would. It's time. There's been a lot of excuses, a lot of adjustments, a lot of evolutions. Book himself has had another injury-riddled type of season. I get all of it. We knew Book would have to do this stuff for the team to reach its peak. And there's only so much time for them to do that. Meaning, there's only so much time for him to give his all. For him to give all of this, which is an unbelievable amount to ask, but that is what happens, again, when you're the best guy. That'll wrap us up for the day. Don't forget to hit follow or subscribe. We'll have Steven Prajone on, bringing a lot of an X's and O's analysis, as he always does, on Wednesday's show. Game recaps after that to close out the week. Enjoy your Tuesday, and I'll catch you guys with Steven tomorrow.